Hey everybody, what is happening? Good to see everybody. Welcome to another one of our live streams here. Let me ditch this music and let's start rolling. I hope everyone's doing well. Happy Saturday evening to everybody. Happy Thanksgiving for you that are going to be celebrating next week. If I forget to say it later on, I hope you're all doing well and I appreciate you joining me tonight. As the title suggests, we're going to talk about, again, mixing with analog style plugins. We're going to go through over maybe the next 5 or 7 episodes or broadcasts where we're going to take a mix from the beginning and we're going to step through the different stages, the different layers of plugins. And as opposed to just teaching the actual mixing concepts and here's how you EQ this and here's how you EQ that, although we'll do some of that as well. I want to talk to you a little bit more this time about the plugins themselves, and every week maybe feature another plugin or two and kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive to show you the different features of the plugin, conceptually how you should think about the plugin and how I would typically use it in a typical mixing scenario. And then we'll do that every week for, I don't know, 5, 6 weeks, however many weeks it takes us to get through a mix and all the different layers. And then we'll do some questions and answers at the end of every broadcast. I hope everyone's cool with that. I think you'll enjoy this. It's a little bit different than what I've done in the past. And I think it'll be fun, or at least we'll see. So make sure you stick around, and it'll be on YouTube. It'll be left on YouTube, so you can always watch the broadcast later if you come in late and got here in the middle of the stream. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Before we get started, on the screen, you can see along the bottom of the video here, you can see a scrolling text. We are in the middle of our Black Friday sale. All single title training courses are 50% off. Make sure you use the coupon code BLACK50 in the checkout center. You'll see a little coupon code box right underneath the regular price of the courses. It will take 50% off. You need to do that this week. Go check that out. I'm sure Dave will be putting all the links in the chat, and I'll get to the chat in a second and say hello to everyone because we already got 25 or so people here, which is great. So make sure you check out all the Black Friday stuff. It pertains to all the courses. The only 2 things that it does not pertain to are the 2 multi-course training packs, the beginners pack and the advanced pack. Those are already discounted in the price. It's about a 45% discount already. So you can pick that up if you'd like. You're still getting a good discount, but it's not, the coupon code won't apply to that as well. So in case anyone asks, but all the other courses, everything else on the website is 50% off. If you are new here and this is the first time you're joining one of the live streams here at Home Recording Made Easy, let us know in the chat. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Welcome to the family. We've gotten tons of people that have signed up for the email list over the last 2 weeks. And so you all were notified about this live stream, and some of those people may be showing up tonight. So if you're here and you're new, let us know. Also, if you're new and you're here for the first time, make sure, as you can see to my right, your left on the screen, or no, you're right on the screen, you'll see follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and make sure that you're subscribed to this YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so you know when I'm posting new content, because I'm doing 2 new videos a week. Yesterday, we just dropped a video on part 1 of a multiple part series on how to use Ozone 9 by iZotope, the mastering suite. That's going to be a lot of fun. You may want to check that out. So definitely check that out as well. So make sure you get on there. Now let's go over to the chat room and see who's here. Let me know how my mic is here. Someone said there's a little bit of distortion on my mic. Other people saying it's clear. Let me know if it's a little too hot. I will turn it down a little bit. That's no worries. So let's say get into the chat and see who's here. And we'll say hello to everyone. And we got 30 people here. Great. So we have Jim is here. Jim, what's up, brother? How are you? David SJ, my partner in crime and moderators here. What's up? David Randall's here. Hey, Randall, how you doing? Who else is creeping around in here? Donnie's here. Hey, Donnie, what's going on? Good to see you, man. DJ Big Red 81 is here. Hey, what's going on? I hope you're doing well. Who else is here? Alistair's here. Hey, Alistair. Tony's here. Tony, how are you? Good evening. Night Rider is here. Hey, what's going on? Let's see here. And make sure you hit the thumbs up, by the way. We got 29 people here. We should have 29 thumbs up by now. Helps the algorithm with YouTube. It helps me out a lot. Definitely make sure you hit the thumbs up if you don't mind. Harley Bob 957 is here. Hey, what's going on? Harley, good to see you. Arrowproof is here from Alabama. How are you? David SJ's got the single coupon codes in the single title coupon code in the chat room. Make sure you follow that. Bobby Mixing and Mastering Services. Hey, Bobby Booth, what's going on? Good to see you. Let's see. Harley Bob's here. Okay, great. Mike is clean. That's good. Buster comment, first time. Hey, Buster, what's going on? Welcome. I'm glad you're here for the first time. Hopefully you'll enjoy this tonight. Oh, and by the way, if you find this live stream and this mixing demonstration helpful to you in any way, feel free to use the super chat. Help out Uncle Dave. Help a brother out. That allows me to continue to do these things week after week, to continue to space out some time in my busy schedule. Anything that you want to donate, if you find this helpful, I do appreciate that up front. And also for the Q&A sessions, because we tend to get a lot of people at these live streams, and it's hard for me to keep track of all the questions. If you do use a super chat, your question will go to the top of the list, and I'll make sure that not only do I call you out, but I also answer your question because I want to help you. That's what I'm here for. All right, Jimmy Farmer's here. Hey, Jimmy, what's going on? Good to see you as well. Dan Sampson's here. First time listening to the live cast. Hey, Dan, congratulations. I'm glad you're here. Awesome, awesome. Jamal Adams is here. First time. Awesome. Another first timer. So we're getting more and more first timers here. This is great. I'm glad that you're here. Get yourself a pad and a pen and take notes tonight during the mixing demonstration because you're going to want to hear all the information, but I'm glad you are all here. Awesome. Woodbeast is here. Hey, Woods, what's happening, my friend? Good to see you. Jamal says, I always catch the videos. Awesome. That's great. I appreciate it. Yeah, Donnie says, welcome to all the new listeners. That's fantastic. Thank you for all showing up. DGen Tube is here. Hi, guys, here from Canada. Hey, what's going on in Canada? Good to see you. Who else is here? Anybody else new? Jim is here. Hey, Jim, what's going on? Tony's here. Great. Jump Ball is here. Hello. Good morning from Malaysia. Wow. What time is it? Oh, good morning. What time is it? It's 7:00 p.m. in the evening. I appreciate you waking up early and joining the live stream. So that's really cool. So now we're in the chat. We got everybody taken care of. You know what's going on. You know to subscribe. You need to do all that stuff. We're going to head on into Studio One, and we're going to talk a little bit tonight about tape machines. And we may get to the console emulation. I don't know. If we don't get to consoles tonight, we will get it next time, I promise. But I want to spend a little time on the tape machine. So let me get into Studio One here. And we'll test out some audio. You can let me know if the audio is working or not working properly. Okay, let me adjust my microphone. And my headphones here. Check. 2, 2, 1, 2. Okay, that sounds good to me. All right, I'm going to lower this a little bit here. The master output, if we get into the audio examples here in Studio One, and if the audio is a little hot or not hot enough, just let me know in the chat, and I'll make sure that I make an adjustment. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? So as I said, we're going to discuss over the next several weeks, going to kind of take you through an entire mix. We're going to use the song that we've been using over the last few live streams because it's, number one, I don't have to worry about copyright issues on YouTube, which is always a problem. Two, it's a small session, which is good. Let me just lower my mic. Hold on a little bit more here. Make sure my mic is not. Okay, let me just turn that down a little bit because now on my headphones it sounds a little bit off. Okay, cool. Hey, Robbie Craig from Oklahoma is here. Hey, Robbie, what's going on? 8 a.m. in Malaysia. Awesome. Thanks for getting up, getting your cup of coffee, and joining us. And so we're going to use this song here, I'm All Right by Angels and Amplifiers. You guys have heard it a bunch. The song itself is really not important. I want to talk to you more about the whole concept of what we're talking about here. So we talk a lot about, when we talk a lot on this channel about working with these third-party plugins, right? We talk about these third-party types of plugins. Here's the tape machine we're going to look at tonight. And we talk about using these kinds of plugins to achieve that analog sound. That's what we do here, mostly. Not to say you can't do good mixes with stock plugins. We've done lots of demonstrations and live streams on that. But when we talk about analog style mixing, we talk a lot about workflow, signal flow, and turning our DAW into a virtual analog studio, right? Like the ones that record all your favorite records that you've been listening to for the last 100 years that you love. From every genre of music, doesn't matter if it was recorded from the 1950s to the 1990s, it was probably recorded in a big multi-million-dollar studio with a lot of this kind of gear and the hardware form, which gives you a very specific sound. Now, part of the magic of that gear is how you run the signal through it. So the reason why I'm starting with the tape machine today is because it is the first plugin in the chain of plugins that we're going to use over the next several weeks to kind of emulate, if you will, or reproduce the signal flow that we would get in an analog studio. So if we were all in a band together and we were recording in a big studio, right? We'd walk into our studio. We may have a big, SSL console or a Neve console. We'd have a big live room, and we'd be out in the live room, drummer, guitar players, bass players, keyboards, horns, percussionists, and a vocalist off in an isolation booth. And typically the way records are cut, not all the time, in more rap, in dance, in pop music today, it's done more in layers. It's not most times. I won't say all the time, but a lot of times in that kind of music, it's not musicians live on the floor playing. In rock, blues, country, in every other style of popular music, typically bands in a live room and they're playing together and they're recording the stuff off the floor. And the way the signal would flow is all the microphones would be hooked up to the instruments. It would run into our control room and it would hit a multi-track tape machine. Okay, that's the first piece of gear, if you will, outside of the microphone that the audio hits coming out of a guitar cabinet, bass cabinet, vocalist mic, drum mics, whatever, hits the microphone, hits a multi-track tape machine. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. From the tape machine, it would typically go to a console of some kind, the big mixing desk, and we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks. And then from there, it'll go through some other gear and eventually end up on a tape machine at the very end. Okay. So we're going to talk about tape machine first and on the Master Buzz tape machine on the end for tonight. So we talk about tape machines. You say, well, what does tape do? What is kind of the overall philosophy around tape? Why do we use tape plugins? What does tape in and of itself do to the audio signal when you record it, whether it's through a plugin or whether it's through a real tape machine in a real big time studio? Well, tape does a couple of things, and I want you to think about tape in a couple of different ways. To me, it's really three plugins. It's three things that happen at once. You have saturation, okay? How hard you hit the tape machine will saturate. At the same time, you have some compression that's happening to the audio signal, okay? And you also have, because of those two things, you're going to have some tonal shifting differences, aka EQ, happening at the same time. So a tape machine, the way I think of a tape machine and the way I teach my students to think about a tape machine is think of it as a compressor, an EQ, and a saturator all built into one. And how we use it and how we push signal through it and some of the settings that we're going to talk about in depth tonight on the tape machine will affect how much saturation versus how much compression versus what kind of EQ tonally happens. Okay? So I'm going to give you a walk through this tape machine. This is by Slate Digital. This is the virtual tape machine. There are many tape machine plugins on the market. I did a live stream a couple of weeks ago comparing just a few of the ones that I have in my collection, and I have others. The reason why I picked this one is because it's simplistic for people that are new to tape. It sounds really good, which is always a plus. It's just something that's commonly on the market. A lot of people use it. I use it all the time. I really like it. And future broadcasts, if with this whole mixing series goes off well after we've done 6 or 8 episodes and you guys want me to do another one, we may come back and do another song, different song, same, all different types of different plugin manufacturers. So we may see other tape machines in the future, but for tonight, we're going to stick with this. But regardless of the tape machine plugin, conceptually, they work the same. Okay, so what you will learn here tonight about a tape machine will really apply to any of the other tape machine plugins that are on the market. The only difference is some may have fewer or more adjustments to them. So let's take a look at this tape machine, okay? It's laid out pretty simply. Okay, over here on the left-hand side, we have this button here called Settings, and we're going to jump into this more in a second, but this will open and close a pane here to give us some under the hood adjustments to this tape machine. We'll look at that at the second. We have a bypass and a process, so you can easily bypass it, turn the tape on and off so we can hear what tape does. And we're gonna listen to all this in a bit. Next to that, we have underneath the badge of the plugin, we have this grouping thing where you can actually group tape machines together in 8 groups. So you can, let's say, for example, let's say you had a specific set of settings you wanted on the tape machine for all your drums. You may put that to, let's say, group one. And let's say your bass guitars in your keyboards, for example, maybe you have a different tape formula or a different tape speed, and you want that to be different from the drums. Well, maybe you would map those to group two, so on and so forth. You can do that. Typically, the way I use tape machines is because I'm thinking of it as, again, if we were emulating an analog studio, they wouldn't have several different tape machines for the different groupings of instruments. They would have one tape machine and everybody would run through it. And the way the settings were on the tape machine for the snare drum is the same tape machine with the same settings that it would be on the lead vocal. Right? But in the digital world, we have the ability to change all of that. And that's cool if you want to experiment with it. And I highly recommend whenever you get one of these plugins that you do just that. You change things around, you push things, you turn knobs, and you experiment to see what sounds good to you. But that's what the grouping does. Next to that, we have this black input knob. And when we turn the input up, you'll see the output on the other side of the meters will turn down so you can level match the plugin. You can also unlink that in and output just by clicking this little, looks like a little chain link here. And that will now make them separate from each other. Typically, in most cases, if you're turning and hitting the tape machine with more signal, you'd want to turn down the output to level match the plugin. So when you turn the plugin on and off, you will hear the volume will not change. And therefore, you'll hear the same volume level before and after processing, which is always the best practice in most cases. In the center, we have our 2 meters, pretty obvious. Right-hand side, we have the output knob. We just talked about it. Next to that, we have our bias adjustment. It is set to default at normal. It's typically where I leave it. Changing the bias to, let's say, high, and what that's going to do is as you push more signal into the tape machine with a higher bias, it means that the high frequencies are going to saturate a little bit faster. It's going to take less signal into the tape to saturate the high frequencies. Okay, that's the easiest way to explain it. Okay, on low, it's the polar opposite, meaning the more signal you push into the tape machine, the high-end frequencies are not going to saturate as much. It's going to take more input signal to saturate those high frequencies when you set it to low. Typically, I set it to normal. Again, we'll experiment a little with that. It'll be a very subtle difference if we would even hear a difference at all. It really works in relationship to the input and how much signal you drive in. But realize that that's what that adjustment is for. Underneath that, we have speed, 30 inches per second or IPS, or 15 inches per second. 30 inches per second, the tape is going to move at a faster rate, 30 inches per second, right? As opposed to 15 inches where it's going to be slower. The difference between the two speeds in sound is 30 inches per second. The faster the tape spins, the little less compression you're going to have. You may also hear that you have a little bit more low end. You'll hear a little bit more of the transient because of the lesser amount of compression. As opposed to 15 inches per second, where the tape slows down, it means the tape is going to compress the audio signal more, which means the low end may have a little bit more warmer, a little bit more pillower sound. You won't hear the transient as much because the compression is going to kind of shave off that transient a little bit more. Next to that, we have over here in the top right-hand side, this particular tape machine plugin really modeled 2 different tape machines. It's really 2 plugins in one. It's a 2 and 16 track multi-tape machine, which is recommended to put on all the individual tracks. And this is modeled after, I believe it's the Studer A827 multi-track tape machine, okay? And if you flip it down here, this is the 1/2 inch 2-track tape machine, which happens after the console, which I'll show you in a minute on the master bus. That was modeled after the A80 tape machine, okay? Just so you know that. Okay, so on the individual tracks, you would set this to the 16 track, the multi-track, right? And then on the master bus, you would set this to the 2-track. And then last but not least, underneath that, we have our tape type. This particular plugin is modeled 2 different types of tape formula. Other tape machines will have more than that. Some will only just have 1. This one has 2. This one has the FG 456 and also the FG 9. Now the 456 is more of a classic sound. It sounds a little bit warmer. It's known as more of the they call it kind of the 6 dB tape formula, which means it has about 6 dB of additional headroom that you can push into this thing before you start to get any saturation. It's got more of a classic sound, okay? As opposed to the FG9 is a little bit more modern sounding. The FG9 is going to give you a little bit more punch. And again, you're going to hear all of this. I just want to explain the controls. A little bit more punch. It's going to have a little bit more, you're going to be able to drive it even harder before you start to hear the saturation. So again, there's just some subtleties in sound and in EQ depending on the tape formula that you use, okay? Now, if we just go quickly back to the settings here, we'll tell you what the settings are. And again, most of these things I leave at its default, but you should play with this. So we have over here on the left-hand side noise reduction. This is the amount of tape hiss you want to hear or do not want to hear. Tape machines have hiss in them. They call that the noise floor. That's inherent. If you've ever used a cassette player or an 8-track tape back in the good old days, as you hear more quiet passages of music, you will hear the tape hiss. Okay, that's what that is, and that's what this is what this kind of emulates, is that the sound of what tape does. Okay, they call that the noise floor. One of the reasons why we used to record in analog, where we used to record really hot, you might have heard that, when we record analog, we record really hot. And we would record really hot, where in digital we record more conservatively. And you said, well, why did you record so hot with tape? It was to be able to get the audio signal above the noise floor enough so you didn't hear too much of that noise floor, too much of that hiss. That really wasn't a wanted or a desirable thing back in those days. Okay, they tried to get rid of it by recording at more hotter levels, okay? Fast forward 30 years and we're in the plug-in thing, and now they want to bring the noise back because they like the sound of the tape, okay? But that's what that does. Wow and flutter is really more of a modulation kind of a thing that happens inside of the tape and the tape heads. It gives you more of a delay, kind of a modulation and a pitch, kind of a shifting thing in a very subtle way, and you can adjust that here as well. Again, I typically leave it at the default. And then the bass alignment allows you to, if you want the tape machine to give you a little bit more of a low end bump, you could go ahead and you can boost that up here if you wanted to turn that up to give you a little bit more low end, or depending on your song that you're working on, if it's got too much low end, when you put on the tape, you can always turn down the bass alignment here. In the middle here, we have all our calibration levels here. I'm not going to get too deep into the calibration because it gets real technical. And I don't really adjust these. The global setting is at -15. That's kind of the sweet spot when they modeled their particular tape machines. And honestly, I leave these alone. We could spend an hour talking about what calibration does to tape behavior, a little bit deeper than I think we really want to get here on that. So I would just leave this alone, to be honest. But if you wanted to really play around with this, you can always break out the Steven Slate Virtual Tape Machine User Manual and read 80 pages about this, and you can play around with it. Over here, last but not least, we have our Hiss Automate, which what this does, when this is on, when no signal is present or detected, okay, when audio is playing back, the noise reduction here, the hiss, will be taken away. You won't hear it. If you turn this off, then you're going to have the hiss playing all the way through the song, regardless if there's breaks or stops or quiet passages. You will hear that hiss even more. Whether that's desirable for you or not, it really depends. It comes turned on as its default. I typically leave that, but you can play around with that. And then over here we have the VU ballistics, how you want to see the needle kind of jumping around on the meter. Again, I kind of leave it in the middle. It's its default, and that's it. Then you click the button here. Okay, so that's the walk through the virtual tape machine. Looks like a lot, but honestly, it's really simple. The way it comes defaulted, at least from the settings point of view, I just leave alone. And the bias I kind of leave alone. Okay, so what I do here, and right now here, our second plugin, which I don't know if we'll get to tonight, is the console emulation, but they're all turned off. The tape machine is the first plugin across all these tracks: kick, snare, toms, overheads, percussion, bass, 2 acoustic guitars, an electric guitar, a piano, a lead vocal, 2 background vocals. Going to a busing system, don't worry about that for now. Going to a master bus, and on the master bus, we have a version of this tape machine. And the only thing that I did differently is I turned it from the multi-track to the 2-track, because that's what you would do on the master bus. and I changed it from 30 IPS per second to 15. Typically, I like to leave my master bus at 15 IPS per second, a little bit more compression on the master bus, as opposed to the individual tracks where I typically would leave it at 30. But we're going to set one of these up tonight, okay? So before we get started, let me just turn off all these tape machines, and let me just give you a little 20-second or whatever thing of what we're going to be listening to here. You guys have heard this before if you've been around here, but if you're new here, you haven't heard me do this song yet. Here's kind of the song we're working with, no processing at all, no EQ, no nothing, just threw up the faders a little bit so you could kind of hear them and just kind of did a quick balance. It's not mixed. We're going to work on that over the next several weeks. Here we go.
I know the seasons right for change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you. I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. But know I will always have this too, a little piece of you.
Okay, so that's where we're at. That's the song, okay? So let's talk about how we set these up generally, okay? So just by turning, now again, I haven't adjusted a single thing on these tape machines, right? Nothing. They're just, we haven't adjusted anything. I just want you to hear what happens when I just turn them on, okay? And then we'll go into the track. I'll spend time showing you how I set up one, and then we'll kind of copy that across all the tracks. You can kind of see it in action, and then we'll tweak some of the settings so you can hear the difference. Sound good? Everybody with me? Okay? So here's what we do. Just from turning it on, changing nothing, here's what we're going to get. Keep your eye on the power buttons here on the plugins.
I know the seasons right for change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left of me. I'm alright being away from you. I'll be fine, cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too, a little piece of you.
Okay, hear the difference there just from turning it on? What do we hear? Well, we instantly hear, at least what I hear, and again, how it comes across on YouTube sometimes I'm not really sure. You hear a little bit more thickness in the bottom ends. You hear a little bit more of an open on the upper mids, a little bit more open, a little bit more present, right? So again, remember I said in the beginning, think of a tape machine kind of like one of the things you should think about, it's kind of like an EQ. Well, there's your EQ change before we even changed anything, okay? So that just shows you that tape, just by running signal through tape, you can get a little bit more bottom end and a little bit more smoother highs. It kind of evens things out a little bit, and it adds a little bit of compression as well, which we'll check on here in a second, okay? So now let's just solo up like a kick drum here. Okay, and let's open up this tape machine. Now, I will tell you, for all your Studio One users, right now you don't see the little tape wheels spinning, and I'm going to show you something. Since we've updated now to the latest version of Studio One, and don't tell me what version it is, I'm sure someone in the chat knows, the one that just came out within the last week or two. Now, when you turn on the tape, watch what happens here. It starts to get a little jittery, and the needle doesn't respond as well, especially when you have multiple instances running. So I turn that's just a graphic display. It's not doing anything to the sound, so I'm going to keep them off. But the last version of Studio One, this didn't happen, but on this one it does. So I just want to let you know that, in case you think it's off, it's not. Okay, so let's talk about how we do this. So what we want to do here when we're hitting tape is we're looking for kind of an average level of hitting somewhere around the 0 dB mark on the VU meter. Okay, that's kind of the optimal spot for most of these third-party plugins. Most of these analog style plugins, hitting around 0 dB on the meter is where the plugin was designed and where it's like the sweet spot, okay? And I double-checked that in the manual, and for this plugin, that is exactly what they recommend. So what I do is, first thing I do is I'm going ahead and I'm turning up the input, and you'll see the output is starting to turn down until I'm hitting right around that 0 dB. That gives us enough healthy signal going into the plugin to kind of maximize the effect of what we're going for here. Okay, and it could go into the red a little bit. It's not such a big deal. How's the audio, by the way? Audio okay here? Hopefully in Studio One, let me know. So now if we talked about the tape speed, and we talked about 15, 30 IPS per second. Right now it's at 15. I would typically set it to 30. Let's hear if we hear a difference. Listen to the kick drum in particular. In a very subtle way, $30 IPS per second, it gets a little bit more thuddy on the bottom end. Remember I said a little earlier, 30 IPS per second is going to give you a little less compression, therefore it's going to be a little bit more punchy. And again, we're only listening to it on one track, but we're also going to listen to it as an accumulative effect in a bit here. Okay, so I'm going to set this to 30. We're on the multi-track tape machine. Let's go ahead and let's change the different tape formulas and let's see if there's a difference. Here's the 456. The FG9. Okay, so what I hear here in my headphones is, again, the FG456 is a little bit, for a kick drum, a little bit more pillowy sounding to me. A little bit more pillowy. It's a little bit more, it's not as tight. It's a little bit more flubby. Not in a bad way, just a little more flubby. Again, subtle differences are going to happen here. Okay? We're going to keep it on the FG9 for now. 30 IPS per second FG9. Now, if we change the bias, what does that do? You may not hear, we may not hear any difference here on one track. Let's listen. Because this is only going to affect the higher frequencies, not really, right? Because we talked about the higher frequencies is what the bias really affects. Kick drum's low frequencies, so we're going to leave it at normal. But what happens if we push the input a little bit harder? Okay, hear all that distortion? Right? That's saturation. Overcompressing. Another way to think of that. So when I drive it this hard, you can hear it distorting. Now on a kick drum, that's probably not what you want to do. But maybe on a bass guitar, that's something you want to do. We'll have to talk about that in a bit. So you want to experiment with that, just so you get an understanding. The harder you hit tape, the more it's going to saturate, the more you're going to hear that audible kind of distortion. Some tracks may be preferable, other tracks not so much. What you don't want to do is do this, where the needle barely moves. You're not maximizing the effect of the plugin at that point. Right? We want to be up here somewhere. And if it, the red light clicks on, if he hits an extra heavy kick drum every once in a while, not a big deal. You dial it into taste. Okay? Let's go to our snare with the same concept. Now that you understand the way they work, and you know the way the tape machine works, let's dial it in. So we can see we're getting a little bit of saturation here, a little bit of distortion. Turn it up so you can hear it better. Okay, what do you notice when I turn it up? Okay, here's all the way up. Okay, what do you hear there? What's the difference there? It should be very obvious. I know over YouTube that'll even be obvious. Right? So when I turn it up all the way, what happens to that snare? When I turn it back, what happens? Okay, for people that are not sure, I know some of you are, is when you turn it up, it sounds like it gets quieter, doesn't it? And you say, why does it get quieter? That doesn't make any sense. You turn it up, it should be louder, shouldn't it? You're hitting more signal into the tape machine. Shouldn't it be louder? Why does it sound different when I turn it down? Why does it sound more punchy and more snappy when I drive it a little less hard? Right? Does anybody know? Because it's acting like a compressor, right? We talked about that, right? That the more you drive tape is a compressor. What is tape going to do what is a compressor, going to do when you hit it too hard? It's going to shape and cut off the transient. So you're not going to hear the crack of the snare the way you do when you turn it down. You may get some audible distortion, a little bit of grit, or some of us call a little bit of hair on the snare, but you lose the punch, right? Okay. Hear it? Big difference, right? So I'm going to go to 30 ifs. You can even hear it here when I change the tape speeds. Now, hopefully you're all listening to this on good studio monitors and or good headphones, because if you're listening to this on an iPhone or something, you're not going to hear a lot of these differences. And for all you guys asking questions, I will do a Q&A session for as long as you need me to at the end of this demonstration, so make sure you stick around. So you may have to ask your question again. Okay? But listen to the difference between 15 and 30. Listen to the initial crack of the snare. Okay, so at 30 ips, it's a little bit more attack on the transient. It's more snappy. Why? Because as we said earlier, 30 ips per second is going to have a faster spinning tape, and therefore it's not going to compress as much. And when it doesn't compress as much, just like when I turn up the input up and down, less compression, more transient comes through. More compression, less transient comes through, right? AKA the snap or the crack of the snare, right? Makes sense? So the reason why I'm kind of laying this out and explaining this all to you is because I want you, if you use tape machines and you don't think about tape machines in this way, I want you to start to think about tape machines in this way. And hopefully, if you're really paying attention, you're writing this all down on a piece of paper, all right? Because these are good, these are golden nuggets, okay? So when I think about tape as a compressor, as an EQ, and as a saturator. Okay, so I just don't slap it on there and move on to the next plugin. There is a theory and a method to the way you set these things up. Okay, so there's our snare. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're going to go to our overheads. Our tom tracks here, he only hits the toms a few times, so I'm just going to set this up the way I typically would. We'll move on to overheads. It'll be a little bit more okay, so let's go to 30 ifs per second. And I'll do this in solo so you can all hear it better. If I turn it up, hear all the distortion? A little too much. Okay, so by pushing this a little bit harder, we can hear a little bit of grit on those overheads. Sometimes that's desirable for overheads. If you have a drum kit that sounds kind of clean, you may want the close mics, kick, snare, toms, maybe to have a little less saturation, and maybe on the overheads you oversaturate it a little bit. Gives it a little bit more excitement to the drum kit. It all depends on the program material and what you're going for, but that's just one thing you can consider. Turn down those overheads a little. Now on the overheads, just on the overheads, I just want to demonstrate what these other controls do because you can hear it better on the overhead mic. So let's talk about noise reduction for a minute. Let's turn off. Okay, so when I turn off the automate, hiss automate, you will hear a faint amount of hiss in the background. Faint amount. And when you do this across multiple tracks, it gets kind of obvious. Wow and flutter. You can hear a slight bit of modulation, just a tiny bit. Finger bass. So you can hear when I had 3 dB of bass alignment, it gives a little bit more bottom end. Again, we're just listening to this on the overhead mics. What I like about these settings in this particular plugin is the settings, even at its most drastic points, is very subtle and it's not overly hyped. You know, a lot of times plugins like this, you take a control, you move it a little bit and something changes radically. Typically, these kinds of settings don't change things that radically on a single track. As I said, it's more of an accumulative thing and it's still in a subtle way. So it's something that you may want to experiment with. Okay, let's move over to our percussion. Okay, so let's bring our tape machine. Again, trying to hit right around that 0 dB or so. 30 ifs per second. Okay. Let's bring it back with our rest of our drum kit. Let's go over to bass. Now, as we said on bass, maybe sometimes oversaturation might be something you would want to go for. Get kind of a little bit of a distorted sound. A lot of times in mixing, and sometimes even in my courses, if we want to put a little grit on a bass, we might use a distortion plugin. Well, one way to not maybe need to use a distortion plugin is just hit the tape a little harder. It gives it a different type of sound. If you're going for that, if that's something that you want to go for. Right? But if you just want to be a little bit more conservative, again, you want to hit right around that 0 dB, right? Let's bring the rest of our band back. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, now that I set these tape machines up, let's just turn on and off. The tape machines are across our drums, percussion, and bass. And let's just hear what the overall effect is now that we've kind of tweaked it in a little bit. Right, so it adds a very pleasing sound to the low end. It makes the low end thicker, a little bit punchier. It opens up the top end. It kind of just smooths things out. It takes some of those heavy transients off and it kind of just mellows it together. And what, some people would call that is glue. It kind of glues it together in a way, makes it a little more cohesive sounding. Let's move on. Let's go to an acoustic guitar. So for each track, I'm basically just turning up the input, which automatically turns on the output. And that's why when we bypassed all the tape machines on and off, you didn't hear this big volume jump, because the output is being turned down for the compensation that we're pushing more signal into the tape machine. Make sense? And that's what you want to do. Yes, the EQ is going to change. The bottom end, the top end is going to sound sonically a little different. And it might appear then when the top end and the higher frequencies open up a little bit more, they'll tend to sound a little bit more louder in volume. And you may feel that you hear a slight difference in volume, but it's very, very slight. It's not really volume that you're hearing. It's the EQ curve shifting. Okay. Just keep that in mind. Here's our electric guitar. Now here's another good little trick for you. If you're running with an an electric guitar that's a little bit more clean, this is a little bit more distorted. And again, you want to add a little bit of grit to that clean electric. It's a little bit too clean for your liking. You can just oversaturate that electric guitar, and that's going to give you a little bit more grit without having to add a distortion or an overdrive plugin, so to speak. So here's that electric. So this one's not too bad, but sometimes you'll have, especially on lightly distorted guitars with single coil pickups, Fender Strats, those kinds of things, running through like a Fender Twin or a Deluxe Reverb or something like that, where it's very kind of clean on the edge of breakup when he hits it hard, but it's bitey. This will help remove some of that bite. So this would be a case where I'm not just kind of shooting for 0 dB. I'm purposely trying to distort and oversaturate the track, okay? Before you add a distortion plugin, you can try something like that. It's a totally different sound, It's whatever you're going for. So let's bring back the rest of our band here. We got a piano here.
All around. I know the reasons you arrange.
Now we're on lead vocals. Okay, so when we talk about lead vocals, again, thinking about tape machines as kind of a compressor. Depending on this vocal's a little bit dynamic. It's a little bit spiky. The beginnings of each phrase, the words jump out a lot. And there's several ways to fix that. You can manually go in and you can tweak some things you can use. When we get past this week's episode, we talk about compressors and channel strips and stuff down the road. That's going to help that. But another way to kind of think about the tape machine as a compressor to help even out a performance of a lead vocals, maybe to hit the vocal a little harder. Also, too, if you want to put a little grit on that vocal, this is another way to do it, just like the electric guitar. So let's solo up the lead vocal, because the lead vocal is always the most important instrument in the band, right? So if it's the most important instrument, let's solo that up and let's just hear what the effect of tape does to a lead vocal.
They're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine?
I want to go back to the first line.
I know the season's ripe for change.
Listen to this word here, the very first word. I know. He goes, I know. So here, with no tape, here's what that word sounds like.
I know the sea.
I know, right? Now listen to it with tape saturated.
I know the season's ripe for change.
Got to turn on the tape machine, right?
I know the season's ripe for change.
You hear it how it softens that transient, okay? It doesn't really distort the vocal.
It's changing all around.
A little bit.
I know the reasons you've arranged. They're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life?
When he hits the chorus, for I'm all right, less saturation. I'm pops out a lot with the saturation.
I'm all right.
Hear the difference? Okay, thinking of it now as a compressor, not just a tape machine, but in the track. Now that's in solo, which means nothing, right? What does it sound like in the mix? I don't know. Let's find out.
I'm all right.
Let's get rid of the background vocals for a minute because that's going to distract you. Sorry about that. Let's listen to that whole verse in the mix with a lot of saturation. Well, is that background vocals? Yeah, I want lead vocals is what I want. With lead vocals, 30 IPs per second. Here we go.
I know the seasons right to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged. You're tearing me down. Where is the peacefulness of mine? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright. As I pick up the pieces that I've left in me, I'm alright.
Okay, so we're hitting tape pretty hard here, way past the 0 into the red, clipping a little bit, but not much, but no real audible distortion because I backed it off a little bit. And what is that doing? That's softening the transient a little bit. It's making the vocal sound a little bit more even. It's setting up our vocal from a compression point of view for the next stages of console emulation, channel strip, EQ, compressor, blah, 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 blah. This sets that foundation. So it makes the vocal will sit better in the track, okay? So it's another way to think about the tape machine. Let's go to background vocals because the background vocals, you got the same kind of thing. The beginning of that chorus gets very pokey, right? So let's listen to the first one here. We'll do it in the mix.
I'm
Let's unmute it and do it in the mix. Right? Here we go. We'll set this up.
I'm alright. As I pick up the pieces that I've left in me, I'm alright.
I'm all right. That hurts my ears when it's uncompressed, those background vocals. I'm going to saturate that a little bit more. There's 2 background vocals in this song, by the way, if you haven't noticed. 1 and 2. So we're going to turn them both. We're going to hit the tape a little harder on both of these.
I'm alright. As I pick up the pieces that I've left in me, I'm alright. Feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. You know I'll always have this too. A little piece of you.
Okay, so now that we've dialed this in across all the tracks, let's turn them all on and off. Oh, we didn't do the master bus. Let's just talk about the master bus. And let's talk about setting up the tape machine on the master bus, and then we will do a complete turn on, turn off. Okay, so you can hear the cumulative effect after the tape machine's been set up. And then we'll go to a Q&A section, and I'll answer all your questions. So here it is on the master bus, and typically I put this at the very last plugin in the chain before it goes out to be exported, okay? We're gonna put this on the 1/2 inch, and I'm gonna run into 15 IPs per second. Again, why? Because it's gonna give a little bit more compression, and it's on a master bus with a whole mix, and it kind of tucks in everything a little bit better. But we'll experiment. We'll go back and forth so you can hear the difference. We're on the same tape formula, and we're on the 1/2 inch 2-track machine, and we're going to keep everything else the same. So let's kind of see where we're at.
I know the seasons right to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you've arranged.
Okay, so I want you to listen to the bass guitar. Okay, this is where you're going to hear this more, and the kick drum. when I turn this plugin off on the master bus, remember all the other tape machines are still running. This is just this one plugin. Listen to how the bottom end kind of goes away. It falls apart. Now, again, remember, we haven't done any kind of EQ or normal compression on a channel strip or console emulation, nothing. This is just tape machines. Okay, well, the reason why I'm making that point and kind of stating the obvious in case you forget is because, again, this is a pretty obvious difference between bypassed and unbypassed. If you did this on a mix that was completely mixed, and we're going to get to that over the next several weeks, and did the same experiment, the change is going to be even more drastic. Okay?
Down, where does the peacefulness lie? Where will my heart come back to life? I'm alright as I pick up the pieces that are left in me. I'm alright, feel away from you, and I'll be fine. Cleaning up the corner, put it back in order. I know I'll always have this too.
Okay, so that's on and off. Now let's just go between 30 and 15 IPS per second and see if we could hear any difference there.
I know the seasons about to change. It's changing all around. I know the reasons you arranged. You're tearing me down. Where does the peacefulness lie? Where will my heart come back to life?
Do you hear the difference there? So again, in a subtle way, 30 IPS per second, the whole track seems a little bit more punchy, a little bit more lively. 15 IPS, it sounds a little bit more tamed, a little bit more compressed. Because it is more compressed. 15 inches per second is going to compress the audio a little bit more than 30 inches per second, right? We talked about that. So that's the difference. And again, we haven't done anything else on the track yet, so that could be tweaked later on, but that's just to show you or let you hear the differences between that. Okay? So tape is something that I highly recommend, and it's one of the first plugins I tell people when they're moving out of the stock plugins and they say, what's the first kind of plugins I should buy? Beyond stock plugins, I always say get yourself a good tape machine. Good tape machine. Get any of the name brands. This is a really good one. But whether you buy this one or the one from Waves or from Overloud or Universal Audio or any of the other main manufacturers, they all make, or IK Multimedia, we've looked at a bunch of them a couple of weeks ago on the live stream. You can go check that in the archive. But tape is something that when used in the first plugin slot of all your tracks, it sets the foundation and kind of evens things out and gives you a good point which to work from when we talk about next week console emulation and channel strips. We're not going to get to consoles this week. We'll do that next week. I wasn't sure how long this would take. Okay, so tape is real important. I highly recommend you get a tape machine plugin if you don't have one and experiment with it. And now that you know some of the basic concepts and how I kind of think about tape, right? Again, we think about it as a compressor, an EQ, and a saturator, kind of all of those three things. Okay. And you want to have some thoughts into when you put these on specific individual tracks, what are you kind of going for? What does this thing really need? And know what your tape machine can or can't do. And all the plugins will sound a little bit different. So depending on which one you choose, may sound a little different than this. And it's all about personal preference and what you like. Okay. So I hope you found that demonstration helpful. We're going to head back over into the chat. And again, if you found this information helpful to you in any way, if you learned something tonight, feel free to use the super chat and help Uncle Dave do more of these live streams for you at no charge. Okay, so let me go back to the chat and I'll answer any questions that you guys have. And next week, we'll talk about the console emulator, the VCC in particular, and we're going to demonstrate all the different consoles and talk about, theoretically, the differences between the consoles and, again, how they pair very nicely with a tape machine plugin. Okay, so let's go to that. I hope you guys enjoyed that. We still got 50 some odd people here, which is wonderful. And let's see what's going on. So if you have any questions, and if you typed way up in the comments, if you don't mind re-asking your question again, I would love to answer it for you in any way that I can, so I don't have to scroll up and go look through everything and lose my place. So if you guys would do that for me, that would be completely Completely cool. Cool. Okay. So go ahead, ask a question. Let's see. Robbie Craig. Hey, Robbie Craig, what's up? Enjoyed it. Great job. Thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad that you like it. Again, make sure you hit thumbs up on the way out. We got 50 people here. We only got 7 thumbs up. Come on, help me out. Help me out. Hit that thumbs up. It's just one little mouse click. It's one little mouse click. It really helps the YouTube algorithm. It helps people see this video after the fact. Okay? So if you guys can do that for me, I'm willing to answer all your questions. Okay, Sam Z Records. Hey, Sam, what's up, brother? Why do old records sound like it's playing out of a crappy speaker, even if they had expensive equipment back then? Well, it depends on the record that you're talking about. When you say old records, what do you mean by that? And depending when you're listening to those old records, are you listening to them on a crappy stereo system? Are those old records if they're old records, were they taken care of over the years? A lot of that could be the condition of the record itself many years later. And someone who is an avid vinyl collector myself, I understand the way, the care of records and the way they can sound. But when they sound, what do you mean when they sound, unless it was made to sound like it was coming out of a crappy speaker? That's not true. If you listen to well-recorded stuff that was made, for example, go back and listen to, don't know if you're a Beatles fan, go back and listen to any of the Beatles records on a decent turntable, on a decent set of speakers in your home. It doesn't sound like it's coming out of a crappy speaker. It sounds like the Beatles are sitting right in front of you, playing for you in your room, right? So some of that could be what you may be describing, could just be the condition of the record today or the condition of the stereo system that you're listening to it on. Unless it was something very specific that maybe they were going for in a trashy kind of a, sounds like crap sound. I guess there's maybe some people that did that, but most records I listen to, that's not the case. Please explain why tape is first in the slot. Oh, certainly. Yeah, I explained that earlier. The reason why I put tape first in the slot is because I'm trying to emulate the real signal flow of the way you would record in an analog studio. So as I talked about earlier, you might have missed it, where let's say we have our whole band in the live room and we're recording, we're playing together, we're cutting our song, and the signal's coming from those microphones into a patch panel. The very first piece of gear it typically will hit will be a multi-track tape machine. Before it hits the console, SSL, whatever, Neve, whatever console we're working with, it's going to hit tape first. So because the signal flow typically will hit tape first, that's why I use it first in the slot. And as I said at the end of the broadcast, again, I don't know if you just jumped in or not, and you might have, and that's totally cool. Thanks for coming. Tape is a great way because what is it? It's a compressor, it's an EQ, and it's a saturator. It's a way to kind of set the foundation for tracks. So before they start to hit all those other pieces of gear after it, you're setting up a decent foundation from a compression and a tonal aspect. So it helps kind of sweeten up the tracks, for lack of a better word. And more importantly, that's the way signal flow runs in an analog studio. Do you have to put it first in the slot? No, you do not. In the digital world, you could put it anywhere you want. This is the way I recommend you do it. But you can experiment. It will sound different if it's first in the slot or if it's last in the slot. It will sound vastly different. And you should experiment with that and see what you like. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Tony says, nice job, Dave. Hey, thanks, Tony. I appreciate it, my friend. Harley Bob 957, very informative. Thanks, Dave. Looking forward to the next show. Night, everyone. Hey, see you later. Gotta go. Take care. See you later. Thanks for joining. Let's see. Juan says, hey, Juan, what's up? Fantastic job. Surely appreciate you sharing your knowledge and your experience. Would you say that even a digital environment, tape plugins impart a warmer, more analog sound? Yes, absolutely. Especially in the digital environment. It's why these plugins are so popular. And again, if you want to learn really more about not only tape machines, but consoles and channel strips and saturators and EQs and compressors and blah, 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 check out the course. You can get it for 50% off right now. Mixing with Analog Style Plugins Made Easy. I'm sure Dave's put it already in the chat once tonight. If he hasn't, if he could, that'd be great, Dave. Thanks. Get Mixing with Analog Style Plugins Made Easy at 50% off. We talk about conceptually how to use these kinds of plugins in the most effective way, much deeper than what I can do here on YouTube. Okay, so that's a course you absolutely should do. You should go check it out. And again, get 50% off if you want to get the course. Let's see, any other questions? Tom says, can get the same effect just by inserting on buses only. Yes, but it is to a lesser degree. Good question, Tom. So one of the things that could come up, depending on the tape machine plugin that you choose, they will use more or less CPU power. The Slate Digital one is very CPU friendly, meaning you could put 30 of them out in your session on every individual track, and it's not going to kill your CPU unless you have an ancient computer. If you have something relatively new in the last 2 to 5 years, you should be fine. However, not all tape machine plugins are created equal from a CPU point of view. Case in point is any of the IK multimedia tape machines, which I love. They sound fantastic. You can't put 30 of those on in your session. Your computer will roll over and die. Okay. So one way to combat that, Tom, is to put them just on your buses, which you can do. So in other words, if you have all your drums going to a drum bus, you can just put one instance of the tape machine on your drum bus and not on your individual tracks. You have a little less control, a little less effect, but it will still work. It's better than no tape machine. So the answer to your question, Tom, it's a great question. I should have mentioned that. I'm glad you pointed it out, is yes. However, if you can put it on all individual tracks, I would recommend that. It's a better overall feel, in my opinion. But if you can't, or if you just want to experiment, put it on just the buses. But yes, the answer to your question is yes. Okay, I watched a masterclass by Sylvia Massey in which she explained that recording to tape was carried out through a Neve console, or am I confusing something? In which she explained that recording to tape was carried out through a Neve console. I don't know. In her particular studio, depending on what she's doing, yeah, at the end of the Neve console, if she was using a Neve, it would go to the 2-track tape machine, just like on our master bus. I'm sure that's true. She may be talking about that they didn't hit a tape machine before the console, just after. That's common as well. Not every studio hit tape, console, tape. A lot of studios did. Some studios just went right from the live room into a console into one tape machine. Depends. So what she's saying isn't inaccurate. She's accurate in what she's saying. But that just might be her particular setup, right, in her particular studio. Aaron says, hey, Aaron, Dave, are you a fan of Schoeps Omnichannel? What flavor analog hardware would you compare it to? I have it. It's not my favorite channel strip. It's not that I dislike it, but out of all the channel strips I own, it's not one of the ones I reach for all the time. What hardware would I compare it to? It's not based on any one console, that particular channel strip, from what I understand. It's some people think it's based on his old Neve. It's not. Certain sections of it are. It's more of a kind of a combination of a few different pieces of gear. It's not like, well, that's a Neve or that's an SSL or that's a Focusrite. That's not what that channel strip is. But that channel strip has some uniqueness to it in that you have an insert point that you can insert other wave plugins into the channel strip, which is cool. I think it has a de-esser on it, which most channel strips don't have, except for the Focusrite one. So it's okay. It sounds okay. It's different. But it's not. If you said to me, I'm going to buy my first channel strip, what would you buy? I wouldn't buy that one. I would tell you go buy either a Plug-in Alliance SSL or a Plug-in Alliance Neve or the Focusrite or the Waves SSL or Universal Audio SSL or Neve, one of those. That would not be my first choice. It's not that it's bad. It's just that it wouldn't be my first choice. But I have it. I've used it. I have a YouTube video on it. I've done some courses or some content at mixingmadeeasy.net, I think in 2019, where I used that once or twice. So I do have the plugin. Let's see. Anybody else have any questions? Thank you for your answer. No problem at all. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Still got 50 people here, which is fantastic. Again, thumbs up, everybody. I don't only see too many thumbs up out there. If you could do the thumbs up, that really does help me. Come on now. Come on now. Help me out. Yeah, if you have any other questions, let me know. Let me know. If you don't have any other questions, I'm going to go get something to eat. But if you have questions, I'm going to stay here and answer all of them for you. And either next week, or maybe not next week because it's Thanksgiving weekend, the week after we'll talk about console emulation, which is the next process we would do after tape machines. Let's see. Hey, Dave, have you tried Air Windows? I don't know what that is. What is Air Windows? I don't know what that is. Is that what it says? AIR Windows? No idea. Aaron says, thanks, Dave. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Do appreciate it. Do appreciate it. Hopefully you guys found this helpful and enjoyable to some degree. What other questions do you have? Oh, and also make sure if you're interested in learning mixing, we haven't talked about mixingmadeeasy.net tonight. Membership doors are going to open January 1st, 2021. right? You only could sign up for Mixing Made Easy twice a year, January and July. It's coming in January. If you want to check out mixingmadeeasy.net, you have to get on the mailing list so you know when membership is going to open. Go to mixingmadeeasy.net, put your name in at the top of the webpage, or you'll see it right on the homepage, and you'll be notified when you can sign up if you want to check out mixingmadeeasy.net. So if you really like mixing, and there's a video on that website, it'll tell you all about what mixingmadeeasy.net is, but you may want to check that out. Tom says, good night. See you, Tom. See you later. Okay. I didn't see all my thumbs up. Okay, there's 49. Okay, thank you. I only see 7. I'm afraid to refresh it because I don't want the stream to kind of go down. So, okay, thank you so much. I do appreciate that, everybody. Let's see. Aaron says CLA Mix Hub or Slate SSL EQ. CLA Slate SSL EQ. I mean, the Mix Hub is pretty cool. I did a review on it. You can go watch it on the archive. I did a review of the CLA Mix Hub. It's a good SSL channel strip with a bunch of additional features, which I think are cumbersome and I would never really use, but I understand what they were going for. It's really the difference between the sound of the Slate EQ and the CLA Mix Hub EQ are probably going to be so darn close it wouldn't be much of a difference. But I wouldn't buy the CLA Mix Hub just for the EQ. I would just use the Slate if it was me. David says Air Windows is a free plugin developer. Oh, I didn't know. Okay, no, I don't know that one, but David SJ would know all about the free plugins. He's the free plugin dude. Juan says, thank you, Dave. I am in the process of setting up my home studio the proper way. Excellent. Thanks to you and your amazing videos and podcasts, I will send you pictures. Absolutely send us pictures and post them on our Facebook, Home Recording Made Easy, Facebook/home, whatever it is. Go to Facebook, follow me, and put it there. I would love to see it. Congratulations on the new studio. I'm glad the training and the podcast has helped you. That's awesome. Let's see. Which is the best tape saturation plugin? Best. Go watch the live stream from 2 weeks ago where I auditioned, I think 4 or 5 of them for you. They all sound a little different. Which one is the best? There is no best. They're all do the same thing. The one we saw tonight is a very good one. The Slate VTM I use all the time. I love it. That's a good one. There's a lot of good ones out there. That one's good because it's CPU friendly, as I said. T-Media makes great tape machines, but they're CPU hogs. They're hard to use, but they sound great. On the Master Bus, they sound awesome. But which one's the best? Go demo them. They all sound good to me. They all just sound a little different. It's hard to pick a best. 50 thumbs up now. Awesome. 51. You guys are fantastic. All right. That's it. That's what I like. Good. Thank you. You guys are awesome. If you have console, they emulate, I would love to review on the Air Windows plugins. Oh, okay. I have so many plugins right now. I typically stay away from free plugins if it's a free plugin, but I have so many plugin reviews to still do and demos to do that, if enough people ask about the Air Windows, I'll put it on the list, but it's going to be a while before I'll get to it, to be totally honest. Tony said, isn't one of the main reasons for placing the multi-track first in the chain is due to the desire to record a relatively dry signal and then add processing later? I don't think of it that way. I'm not saying that some people may not think of it that way and that's false. That could be true, but I don't think of it in that fashion. I don't think of it as recording a dry signal. That's not how I think of it. But that's not to say that some engineers and recording engineers don't think of it that way. That could be true. That could be true. But yeah, I wouldn't say you're wrong, but that's not how I think of the tape machine personally. Lindell 80 or 9000J, which will you prefer? Brainworks 9000J. I am late. That's okay. You can watch the replay. It'll be up on YouTube. Nick says, hey Nick, how are you? Do you use Guilfoss? Yes, I do. And there's Guilfoss EQ is one of the best new plugins I bought this year. By far, I use it on every single mix. I did a review on it. It's on the YouTube channel. And I've used it quite a bit at mixingmadeeasy.net for the members that are members over there. Jimmy says, hey Jimmy, what's up, brother? I'm not Dave, but I like both of those. Oh, the Lindell and the Neve clone are totally different vibe from SSL. Yeah, they are. They're completely different. DJ says, Dave, do you have an alternative plugin to get that more affordable other than the Adapter Audio Metric AB you've been mentioning a few times? The only other one I used to use before at DJ, and I don't think they make it anymore, which is why I moved to this plugin, was Sample Magic Sample AB. I think that was a $50 plugin, but I don't think they make it anymore. That's one of the reasons why I switched. That audio adapter plugin, again, Black Friday's coming, guys. That's the other thing too. For a lot of these plugin manufacturers, next week is going to be the week where you're going to be able to get that plugin for $50, DJ. And again, I don't know what your budget is, but if you have $50, buy that plugin. It is the single, I think, most important plugin for a beginner, or not even, I shouldn't say it that way. It's not a beginner. I use it all the time, and I've been mixing for 25 years. For a mix engineer to get more consistent mixes is that plugin. And so, but I don't know of any other ones other than the one I just mentioned. I don't think they make it anymore. So I would hold off, DJ. Wait till Black Friday. Don't pay $200. You'll be able to get it cheaper. I'm telling you. Just wait a week. Eric says, "Hey Eric, what's up? What Slate control? What Slate console emulation do you put before the Focusrite console?" Oh, I see. Because you're right. The Focusrite channel strip, you mean? You could pick any one. Again, that's a little weird, right? Because the Focusrite is not part of the VCC. So what I would probably do is pick a console that was similar in tonality to the Focusrite, and that might be the Neve for me. I'd probably pick the Neve because the Focusrite and the Neve are in the same family of sound, in my opinion, if that's what you're asking. So that's what I would do. Let's see. Oh yeah, you want to pick? Okay, yeah, you're talking to Jimmy about the two plugins. Yeah, Black Friday, you can get them both at cheap. Let's see. Milkman. Hey, Milkman, just got here. Hey, good to see you, man. You can watch the replay. Sorry, you're not late. Anytime you come is the right time, my friend. Good to see you here. Let's see. Yeah, and if David S.J. makes a good point, Andres, if you're like some of us, you'll end up with all these plugins at one point. That's true. That's true. Marcus says, "Hey, Marcus, considering that in the real world tape recording, you record every track to the same tape machine, would it be best to use a single speed setting for every track?" Yes. Yes, if I'm reading your question right, yes, because in the real world, you'd have one tape machine. And so if it was set to 30 inches per second, all the tracks would be set to 30 inches per second. If they were all recording at the same time, or if it was set to 15 inches per second, same thing. So yes, and on all the individual tracks, I set it to 30 inches per second. Now on the master bus, because it's a totally different tape machine, remember, I'm talking about a studio that has two physical tape machines, a multi-track tape machine running at 30 inches per second, and a mastering, or after the mix bus, tape machine running at 15. But the answer to your question is yes. Juan says, "Sweetwater affiliate link. Does that occasionally offer deals to your listeners?" Technically, no. I'm supposed to say no, but technically no. But it has happened from time to time. I got to be careful. It's really the affiliate link there is really when you guys are buying something at Sweetwater. You're not paying anything extra than what you would buy it if you called them on the phone or didn't order through my affiliate link. The only difference is it gives me a small commission. And again, it really does help me. Again, it helps allow me to do things like this for you, where I could come and spend my time here and not charge any money for it and do free training. So does it occasionally give deals to listeners? Sometimes it does, and that's all I can say. Okay, thanks for the information. You're welcome. Pardon me. Let's see. David S.J. is talking about the Sample Magic plugin, DJ, and he says that it's okay, yeah, it's a sample library developer now. Okay, so something's changed there, and that's why I don't think you could buy the plugin. Oh, but he's the guy to help develop the one that I'm talking about. Well, that makes sense because it's a similar plugin with a hell of a lot more features. Any good analog EQ example, BX Digital V3. I don't know that particular plugin. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Greetings from Malaysia. It's probably 9 o'clock there now. You're just finishing up your cup of coffee. I appreciate you joining. Let's see. Okay, David S.J. is talking about a comparable plugin to the Plugin Alliance one. You guys can check that out as well. Juan says, got you, Dave, as long as we help you out by using the affiliate link. Yeah, it does help me. It does. It does. And it doesn't cost you anything else. Trust me. I wouldn't tell you that it did I wouldn't tell you that unless I'm 100% positive of that. No matter what you buy, it could be a guitar, drums, it could be recording gear, software, whatever you buy, it costs you $0 more. It just helps me. So I do appreciate you using that link. And a few times this week, I think, or this month, I mean, I sent out an email with my affiliate link that you can use that 12 months out of the year. I ask people to just put it on your desktop, save that link, and anytime you need to buy something from Sweetwater, just use the link, and that would really help me. Let's see. Doc H Doc Guy says, really appreciate these live and reviews. Oh, you're welcome, man. I appreciate you being here. I really, really do. We have almost 60 people still here. We're already done with the demonstration. You guys are still hanging out, and that helps me, and I do appreciate that. Jimmy says, my last 2 big ticket items from Sweetwater were purchased through your affiliate link. Awesome, man. Thank you. What did you buy? Because I don't know. When I get those affiliate reports, they don't tell me, for example, Jimmy Farmer bought X, Y, and Z. I don't know what you bought. So I'd be interested to know what you bought. But thank you so much for doing that. I really do appreciate that. I wish I could see what everybody bought, just because I'm just curious. What gear are you guys interested in? What plugins are, what do you guys like? It's always interested in that. But yeah, I do appreciate you using the affiliate link. It really does help. I've only been an affiliate with them for about a year. They just started the program, and not anybody can be an affiliate, by the way. They custom handpick the channels that they want to be affiliated with Sweetwater. And I've been a Sweetwater advocate for forever, and they probably deliver packages to my house 3 times a month. Just ask my wife. They're always here. Sweet. You would think I'm an employee of Sweetwater, but I'm not. But they send me so much gear, you would think I have a warehouse here, but it's unbelievable. Anyway, hey, Johnny Lipsham's here. Hey, Johnny, how you doing, my friend? I hope you're doing well. Hope you and the family are safe and well. I haven't talked to you in a bit. Thanks for stopping in. Make sure everybody checks out Johnny Lipsham's channel. He's always doing live streams and teaching stuff as well, so that's really cool. Thanks for stopping in. Let's see. Jimmy said he bought his your interface and your Motu. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Thank you again. I so appreciate that. It really does help. And again, they're great there. And if you ever have any questions, or if anyone ever has any if you want my recommendation on a couple of pieces of gear you're looking at Sweetwater, you can always email me and I'll try to answer that for you before you spend your money. Let's see. Yeah, Juan says the Motu interface looks damn sexy. Yeah, Motu makes good stuff, man. They do. They make really good stuff. And they're affordably priced, considering what you're getting. They're not really like an entry level thing, and they make really good stuff, really good quality stuff, and their stuff is high quality, really high quality. David SJ is putting in the affiliate link once again. Thank you so much, Dave, for that. Again, anybody can use that link. Just copy it to your desktop, save it on your computer, and in 6 months, if you have to buy a pedal or something, you can use that link. It's good. It never runs out, is what I guess I'm trying to tell you. But if you're buying stuff now through Black Friday and getting right now, I think they're offering like 70% off deals on certain brands. So if you're in the market for anything music related, you may want to check them out, because they got some killer deals on stuff. Really good stuff. Really good stuff there. Let's see. Are there big differences between analog and digital limiters? Well, it depends. You mean in the plugin? You mean plugins versus hardware? Or I'm not sure what you mean, or if you just mean in the plugin world, because every limiter plugin's a little different. So are there big differences? It depends on the 2 plugins that you're talking about. Some of them may not have much of a difference, and some of them have a world of difference, depending on which ones you're talking about. Let's see. Yeah, David SJ bought a Focusrite Claret, which is another really good audio interface. I think that's an 8-channel or an 8-input, right, Dave? That's a nice piece as well. Those are made out of Canada, and they make really good stuff. Focusrite makes good stuff. Let's see. Do you know if there's any Studio One 5? Do you know if Studio One 5 will go on sale for Black Friday? Probably. I don't know that. I'm not in the know with PreSonus. They don't tell me those kinds of things. But everybody has Black Friday sales in this business. So I would be surprised if there wasn't. I mean, right now I have Black Friday sales, right? So everyone has them. So I would imagine so. So if you're looking to upgrade or, go from the artist version to the professional version. You may want to wait a week and see if they announce something, but I don't really know that. I don't know. But my guess is probably, but I could be wrong. Maybe not. Let's see what else we got going on here. We still got 50 people here. Wonderful. Let's see. Milkman says my budget will allow me to make a gear purchase, but I'm on the fence between a subwoofer and the Avitone mix speakers. Oh, okay. That's a good question, Milkman. We've talked a lot about this in the coaching call. Well, let me ask you this first, Milkman, with the sub, what kind of speakers are you using? What are your main monitors first? Here's the thing about a sub, and I'm going to tell you this in general, and I know this because I just lived this, and I can 100% vouch for this statement I'm about to make. Now, some people will disagree. Some people tell me that I'm crazy, but I'm telling you that this matters when you talk about subwoofers, okay? And I went through this. So I have, some of you know, some of you may not know, I have Focal Solo B6s as my main near fields. Those are, for the pair, about $3,000, a little bit over. Mid-price studio speakers. Certainly not entry level, not top end, middle of the road. I've been using them for 7 years now. I love them. I love Focal speakers. Anyway, I didn't use subs for a long time. A couple of years back, one of the more popular audio companies wanted me to do a demo on their sub, and they sent me their subwoofer to try out with my Focals. Now, the reason why I didn't use subwoofers is because in the past I've tried a couple and they didn't sound right, so work with me on this. So the company sends me the subwoofer. It was about a $350 10-inch subwoofer, powered subwoofer. Put it with the Focals. Could never get it to sound right. The mixes sounded muddy. It was so distracting, the sub, no matter how low I turned it down. It did not help me. It made me more confused from a mixing point of view than anything else. And I said, I'm not using a sub. I don't need a sub. I don't mix a lot of real subsonic low dance music, hip hop stuff. That's not typically what I mix. My Focals go down pretty low. I've had lots of success with them. Recently, over, the last 6 months, I decided I wanted to give it another try, and I did some more research. And what I found about subwoofers is the subwoofer that you buy, it needs to pair nicely with the monitors that you have. The subwoofer, in a general sense, you kind of get what you pay for. When I bought the Focal sub that was matched to these two speakers, now this wasn't a $300 sub, this was a $1,600 sub, which you may say, oh my God, that's expensive for a subwoofer. And it is. It's a 10-inch subwoofer. It's paired specifically in tune, specifically to these specific sets of speakers. And as soon as I put it in, within 5 minutes of dialing that in, I've never had the mix sound better. It is the perfect complement. It didn't have any of that nasty muddiness and flubbiness that more affordable subwoofer gave me, and it really helped me a lot with mixing in this room, a lot, and I highly recommend it. However, you got to get the right sub. That's why I asked you what kind of speakers you have. The mistake that you can make, or what some people will make, is they'll have a nice set of speakers, even something like $1,000 pair or $3,000, like what I have, or anywhere in between. They'll have a decent set of studio monitors, and they'll go buy a $300 KRK subwoofer, and it sounds like crap. And that's part of the reason, because it's not matched with the near fields. The other thing, Milkman, and I know you know this, but I want to say this to other people that may not know this. If you don't have a well acoustically treated room, the worst thing you can do is put a subwoofer in your room. It will kill any ability that you have to make good judgments on mix decisions when it comes to low end. Okay, so the acoustic treatment's got to be right, and it's got to be paired right to the speakers. And I would spend as much as you possibly can on one. Don't buy a $300 subwoofer. Don't waste your money. Now, the Avitone mix cubes, which are $500 for the pair, which you can get on sweetwater.com if you use my affiliate link. Those things I love. Those things, to me, are probably more important in the scheme of things between that and a subwoofer, because those really can help you really dial in the mid-range of your mix in your mixes to make sure you don't have too mid-heavy, harsh guitars, things like that. I love those things. And again, that's a recent addition. I actually bought the Focal sub and the Avitone speakers right around the same time to kind of finish up my monitoring system. And I love them. I use them all the time. So if you if you don't have a secondary set of kind of crappy speakers to audition your mixes on, those are great to have. I would probably tell you that those are probably more important than a subwoofer, unless you're really mixing hip hop R&B where you got to get way down low and your near fields just can't go that low. I know it's a long-winded answer, but if you only have budget to buy one piece of gear, I'd hate to steer you the wrong way. That's why I wanted to kind of elaborate, and hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, and hopefully that helps other people that are thinking about a sub. Let's see. Let's see. Any other questions here? Got 58 people here. More people are showing up. This is great. Let's see. Any other questions? I'm trying to scroll up a little again in case I missed. Let's see. You have 56 likes now. 56 likes. All right. Thank you so much. Again, thumbs up, everybody. That's really cool. Let's see. UAD Luna is interesting with the analog summing, although I'm not sure it's a full analog emulation or just plugins added. Oh, the Luna is interesting. I did a 3-part video series on the YouTube channel when it first came out. It was kind of called the 8 Reasons Why I Wouldn't Switch to Luna. Well, there's been some updates since then, and I have to do another video on that because it's becoming more and more fully featured. Some of the things that I complained about in that original series has been fixed or addressed. I do have the Neve summing plugin for that, which I like. They just released the API, but again, it's expensive. It's like $300, which I just refuse to pay $300 for that plugin. But I might demo it for my MixingMadeEasy.net members. And so Luna is an interesting DAW. I think right now, again, it's new, it's brand new. And so, you know, is it going to come in and wipe Studio One, Pro Tools, and Cubase and Logic off the map? Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. However, Universal Audio, again, I've been using their stuff for years and I love their plugins as well. They're an amazing company. And if they do it right, Luna will be one of the main DAWs in the next 2 to 3 years, I think, because they're doing it right and they're taking the time to do it right. They're not cluttering it up with a bunch of nonsense features that most people don't use, and they're keeping it to the core stuff, which I like. At least that's what it is for now. And so I will circle back around in 2021 and revisit Luna and see if it's gotten any better. But if you're a Universal Audio Apollo user, you can download it for free and try it. And I urge you to try it. I like what I see from them, but I'm not 100% sold yet. Okay, let me scroll back up here. Let's see. Any other questions? Where's that Luna question? That was after that. Okay, here we are. Oh, Milkman says he has Rocket 10s. The Rocket 10s. Those are the near fields, or is that the sub? Oh yeah. Okay. David S.J. saying, yeah, if you have 10-inch woofers in those near fields, Milkman, I don't know. I think David's right. I don't know that you need a sub. You know, if you got a 10-inch speaker, that thing should go down pretty low. If it doesn't, again, and I know the Rockets are, you know, decent set of monitors. I don't know that I would add a sub to that setup. You know, we'd have to talk more detail about it. If you're not happy with the sound of those monitors or the low end of those monitors, adding a sub is probably not going to help you, especially the Rocket series subs. You may at one point, you may want to maybe upgrade those monitors to something a little bit more high end at one point in your, you know, your journey, and if your budget allows it and all that. So based on what you just said with those Rocket 10s, I'd get the Avitone speakers. That's what I would get. I wouldn't get the sub. Oh, now you're saying you had Rocket 8s. Even with the Rocket 8s, unless you have a really big room, Milkman, unless your room is huge, bigger than like 12 by 12, you don't need an 8-inch woofer is all you need. My Focals are only, 5 3/4, I think, or 6-inch speakers. So 8-inch woofers, you know, unless you have a really big room, 8-inch woofers, should be good enough. They should be. Unless they're, again, I don't know much about the Rockets, so I know they're very popular. I know they're decent sets of speakers. I've never really listened to them. But if you're not getting some good tight low end out of an 8-inch speaker, then it's the quality of the speaker. They may not be very efficient. You know, the specs may not be fantastic on that. instead of just adding a subwoofer, save up and at one point maybe swap out those monitors for something the next step up or two, because you can get a smaller speaker that give you better bass response than those, depending on the situation. Let's see. Okay, I see that you guys are all helping out Milkman. That's awesome. DJ says we got 60 likes. We're rocking it. We are. You guys are great, man. 60 people, 60 likes. Right on. That's the way to do it. Let's see. Juan says the Behringer X Touch. I don't know if you're recommending something. I use that thing. I hate it. It confused me. I used the PreSonus fader port. But I know people that have the X Touch that like it. It just wasn't for me. I tried it. I sent it right back. Let's see. I'm considering testing using Apple earbuds for mixing, or is that a big no-no? Well, I would use Apple earbuds to check your mixes, but to do your main mixing, no, I wouldn't do that. If you don't have the room, the acoustic treatment, or the budget to get a good set of studio monitors, get yourself a good set of mixing headphones. I did a whole video on that not too long ago on YouTube. You can check that out on my recommendation. For $400, you can get an amazing set of mixing headphones. I would use earbuds to check mixes, but not to do critical listening. They're not made for that. Not if you want your mixes to sound good. But it's a good way. It's a good reference to check, but not to do main mixing. Joel says, hey Joel, I've been using Luna for a couple of months now, almost exclusively, and you really enjoyed my experience with it. Yeah, I did a mix with it on mixingmadeeasy.net 3-4 months ago. The guys would help me out here. And I said in that video, there were a lot of things about Luna I really liked. The one thing, the thing that I really liked the most about it, you have spent more time on it than me for sure, is that it's clean, it's simple. It's not cluttered. It's got a clean interface. You can find things pretty easily. It's a simple DAW once you kind of know the shortcuts and stuff, which took me a little bit. And Universal Audio plugins are freaking fantastic. And you can use third-party plugins in Luna if you want to. I'm going to do that with mixingmadeeasy.net members, I think in February. Well, when I did it, I just did it just with Universal Audio stuff. But I'm going to also now test it with third-party plugins and see how it behaves. And test out some of the new features that have been added since I've tested it last. So again, I'm not down on Luna. I was when I first did the 3 video series, because I thought there were a few things that they released that DAW sooner than it was supposed to be. They released it because of the pandemic. They said they wanted to get it out into the marketplace during the beginning of the pandemic, earlier than they were supposed to release it. And I think they prematurely released it. There was some issues with it. Since then, supposedly it's been fixed. And the mix that I did with it, I kind of liked using it. Would I leave Studio One to go to it exclusively? Well, I'm not there. I'm not there yet. Could it be from a mix? Again, what I do, 90% of what I do is mixing. I don't do a lot of tracking and recording, although I know Luna's really built for that, especially if you want to record through the plugins on the Apollo's DSP. That's one of the big selling points. But I find it to be even more useful as a mixing DAW, whereas Studio One is, all the features and stuff that they have and all the things they keep adding in all the new versions really don't pertain to me as a mixer. It's more for songwriting and production. I still think Studio One is the most stable DAW on the planet, but I haven't used Luna enough yet to know that. But I can certainly see Luna being my second favorite DAW at one point. For sure. And again, I'm a big Universal Audio fan. I love their stuff. Anyone that's been following me for a while knows that. Okay, let's see. Any more questions? They need to make a Windows version of Luna. Yes, that's not out yet, but it will be. It will be. It just isn't, but it will be. Don't worry. Let's see. They're talking about checking mixes on earbuds. Yes, you can check them. How do you feel about Slate Digital VSX headphones? I liked them. I started to do a review on them, but unfortunately what I learned once I had them, again, you got to think about what I do here is a little different than what you guys do. I'm an educator and I teach this stuff. And like what we did tonight, there was mixing demonstration. I can't use the VSX during that demonstration, because if I put that plugin on, you're hearing the affected VSX room emulation, and it only does you good if you're using their specific headphones. So for someone like me, the VSX from a teaching point of view doesn't really help you. That's why all the demos that you guys see online and people doing them, you never hear any audio. You see them put the headphone on, listen, then they take them off and they tell you what they heard. Because if they put that plug-in on and you hear the audio in your environment, it's going to sound really weird because you're not listening to their headphones. So for me, it's not something that I'm going to use to be honest with you, it's not something I'm going to use a lot of at all for what I do, but I did think they were really cool. And I think it's a really good product, and the headphones sound really great when you pair it up with the plugin. But it just doesn't fit into what I do here as an educator at Home Recording Made Easy. But I think it's a good investment. For $500, it's worth $500. If you're in the market for a good set of studio headphones, the ones that I'm wearing are $500, so it's worth $500, I feel. Let's see. Milkman says he has a 12 by 15 room with lots of acoustic treatment and the speakers sound great. Okay, so you got a good sized room there. Again, a sub. Why do you feel you need a sub, brother? That's what I would ask you. Are the 8s, or you said you got the Rocket 8s, are they just not going low enough? Are you mixing outside of what I know you mix with me? Do you mix stuff that's real low end, like dance music and rap and stuff where you really got to hear the bottom subsonics? Is that why you feel like you would like to, or you just want to try one? And again, there's nothing wrong with that either, my friend. You want to try a new piece of gear, that's cool. But if you're asking me, what do I think the benefit, where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, is probably the Avatones. But I'm curious to know why you think you need a sub. Because if you got the acoustic treatment, you got a big enough space, those 8-inch speakers should be plenty for that room. If those speakers just don't go low enough for your liking, the sub, again, I don't know that brand outside of I just know that they're a decent brand, but I'm not familiar enough with them. Here's what I would tell you too, Milkman. Buy the damn thing from Sweetwater and you can return it if you don't like it. That's the other great thing about them, right? You could bring that sub into your room, try it out, and within 45 days, if you don't like it, put it back in the box, send it back, and say, give me the Avatones. You know what I mean? You could do that. Try it. Make sure whatever you buy, you can get a good return policy on it. But, that's what I would do, Steve Kerr says, if you did not already address this, are FabFilter Pro C2 and Pro Q and Pro R worth the price? They typically don't do Black Friday sales. I thought they used to do Black Friday because all the plugins that I have from them was when I bought them on Black Friday, but this is going back a few years. The Pro Q, the Pro EQ, the Pro Q2 and 3 are fantastic EQs. I like them. The Pro R, I have it. I don't use it much. The Pro C2, the compressor, they're good. They're good plugins. They are good plugins. Again, they're not the first thing that I reach for. The FabFilter line, the Pro DS, I love. The DS is fantastic. The Pro Q2, I use it all the time. The compressors I have, the multi-brand compressor I have, the limiter I have, I know people that use them that really like them. I don't use them very often because I have other things I like. But they make good plugins. What I notice about their plugins, though, especially, you're not going to get any color. If you're looking for color and analog kind of thing, those plugins aren't going to do that. They're more, I like their Pro Q, to me, is more of a surgical EQ. It's a great EQ because you can audition with the little headphones. You can isolate the frequencies, is really cool. Although now you can do that in the Slate Infinity EQ as well. But they're not going to add any color. You're not going to get like a Neve sound or an API sound or an SSL sound. So if you're not looking for that, then the FabFilter is a good bundle. But just know what you're getting, And I thought maybe they don't do Black Friday anymore. They always did. And their plugins are a little on the pricey side. They are, but they are good plugins. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, open back headphones, maybe. I'm not sure if you're asking me a question or maybe you're chatting around with someone else. Juan says, I was looking for thoughts on DAW controllers. Love them, hate them, recommendations. DAW controllers, well, you mean for the physical faders? I like them. The Fader Port series by PreSonus is probably the best ones I've seen that are affordable. I know Behringer also makes stuff. I don't like Behringer products typically. It's just not, most of their stuff I equate to cheap stuff. cheap componentry and stuff. Although, again, I know people have the X32 and they love it. I've never used it. I've always used the PreSonus Studio Live stuff. So I think the fader port, the Studio Live that does DAW control, I think those are great. If you want the faders, the physical faders, to me, those are the best ones on the market that are affordable, that are not like, huge amounts of money. Let's see. Steve says, okay, thanks. Are they worth it or should I consider something else? Oh, you mean the FabFilter and the plugins? Well, again, I guess it depends what you're going for. Today there are so many plugin companies that have these like subscription bundle packages, which are so affordable, and you get so many more great plugins for the money. Things like Plugin Alliance, you can get their mix and master thing for I don't know what, again, they're going to be running Black Friday sales, but typically I think for like $250 a year, you can get all their plugins, and they have fantastic plugins in there. And when you do that with that company, you also get a $250 voucher to buy the plugins outright. So, you know what I mean? It's like you're getting the plugins for free. You're paying for them. You're getting the membership for free. They have all kinds of special deals. But anyway, Plugin Alliance I like. And I still think if you have typically just worked with primarily stock plugins and now you're moving to more of these other kinds of plugins, if that's the situation you're in, I still think the best bang for buck is the Slate Digital stuff. The All Access Pass, which is $14 a month or $150 a year, and you get every plugin they put out. All the updates are free, and I tell everyone, if you didn't buy any other plugins, and from this point forward only use the Slate Digital stuff inside of that All Access Pass, you get every plugin you need. You really truly do. And I think he's about to drop 2 new plugins this week. And every time he puts out a new plugin, it doesn't cost you anything more. I still think that's the best bang for buck, is the Slate Digital stuff. I use it all the time. You saw me use the tape machine tonight. It's part of that package. So if that's a situation you're in, that would be my recommendation. Let's see. Pardon me. Any other questions? We still got 50 people here. Lovely. I don't know how many likes we have because I won't refresh the screen, but someone said over 60. Okay. Hey, do you know whether PreSonus Studio One will have Black Friday sales? Someone asked me that before. I don't know that. I don't know for sure, but I don't know of a single company in this industry that doesn't do a Black Friday sale, except possibly FabFilter, as Steve was saying. But are they going to have one? I don't know. I don't have any insider information. My guess is probably they have in the past. So I would wait till next week if you're about to upgrade and see. My guess is they will, but I don't know that for sure. Let's see. Jimmy Farmer's talking about Logic Pro 10.6 has more stable than 10.5. Well, that's cool. I haven't used Logic in a long time. Milkman says you talked up your sub, so I was curious to see what it would do for me. Yeah, for me, it was but again, like I said, you heard me say the story. I won't repeat the whole story. You get what you pay for. I compared a $400 sub to a $1,600 sub, and it was night and day. And I mean, I couldn't mix with the $400 sub, but I could with the Focal sub. And so with the right subwoofer, Milkman, I think you would be pleased. Is that Rocket one the right one? I don't know enough about their products. But I'll tell you what, if you were to buy it, put it in your room, and in 15 minutes, if you can't get it to sound right for you, send it back. Because, you know what I mean? It should be quick and easy to dial in. It really, really should. The key about a sub too is a lot of people, myself included, your temptation is to jack it up and get the thing really rocking, right? That's why you want a sub. That's the exact opposite of what you want to do when you're mixing. That subwoofer should sound most of them do. The Focal does, and I'm sure the Rockets do as well. I have a bypass switch where I can press the switch on and off and take the sub in and out, and you should hear a very mild difference. From a volume perspective, it should be it should just fit right underneath your near fields from a volume perspective. You should just be able to hear the thickness come up a little bit. It should not be boomy and slamming like a dance club, right? That's exactly what you don't want with a sub. And that's the temptation. And so I had to make sure that my thing is just when you turn it on and off, you could hear a difference, but it doesn't sound like there's a subwoofer in the room. It sounds like it's coming from the near fields. because the volume is matched, I really took time to match it. So when you turn it on, it doesn't feel like, oh, he just turned on a subwoofer. You know what I mean? That's critical. And so if you get the right sub in the right room, placed with the right set of speakers, it could really, really do awesome. So try it, man. You got nothing to lose. Again, just buy it from somewhere. Again, whether you use my link or not, it doesn't matter to me. Buy it from somewhere where you can return it. You know what I mean? Just in case. That's what I would tell you. Just make sure you can return it if it doesn't work for you. That's what I would tell you. Jimmy says he uses the Saturn and the L2 on pretty much every mix. That's the Fab Filter, right? Yeah, I think it is. Let's see. Juan says, I've been looking for an X-Touch and was really weird with Keith McMillan Instruments. I don't know. Okay, I guess you're talking to someone else. Okay, that's cool. Let's see. Are there any good wireless studio headphones? Not that I'm aware of. I wish there were. I hate this stupid thing. But no, not that I'm aware of. If there are, they're probably ungodly expensive. But I haven't seen any, and I've looked for some recently, and I haven't seen any. Let's see. Dave, go get something to eat, brother. Thanks, man. No, I'm going to stay. I'll stay. If you guys have more questions, I will answer them. That's what I'm here. I'm here to help you. There's still 52 people here. So if you need my help, ask now, because we are getting towards the end here. But if you have a question, ask me. Again, we're going to do this. I don't know if we'll do this next week. Again, make sure that you're on the email list at homerecordingmadeeasy.com. We had a lot of first-time listeners tonight because I will be sending that email list an email for when the next live stream is going to be. I don't know that it'll be next week. Maybe it will. I don't know. We'll see when we get there. But we're going to do more of these, and you can ask your questions then. But make sure you're on the email list. And again, Dave's put the links in the chat a bunch of times tonight. Get your 50% off. The Black Friday sales are going to go away soon. They're going to go away soon. Get the courses at 50% off. We're talking a lot about tape machines and consoles. Mixing with analog style plugins made easy is the course I highly recommend if you're getting into these plugins. If you're getting into these tape machines and channel strips and console and all the things we're talking about, you should have that course in your collection. You will learn a ton, and you're getting it 50% off. So that's what I would do if I was you. 67 likes. Woohoo! That might be a record. You guys are awesome. I really do appreciate that. Okay, a couple more minutes. If you have any questions, Dave's putting things in the chat once again. Make sure you guys get out there, get those courses. If you have any other questions, now's the time to ask. But I want to make sure and say, all of you, hope you have a happy and safe and healthy Thanksgiving weekend coming up. Enjoy the time. I know we're still going to a quarantine and a lockdown, and depending on where you live, you might have a little bit more freedom to move around than other places. But let's try to be thankful for what we do have and try to wind down this 2020 and get into a better year, hopefully next year in 2021. Yes? Let's see. Steve says, I bought Sound Toys 5 plug-in bundle. Oh, yeah. I have the Echo Boy is awesome. I was interested in the Echo Boy. The little plate, yep, the little altar boy, Black Friday sale, got the bundle, wasn't much more than a price for 3 plugins. Yep, I have all those plugins. Sound Toys makes great stuff too. The Echo Boy is probably my favorite delay plugin that I own. The little altar boy is really, really great for adding low octaves to vocals and things. It's really cool. That's great stuff. Great stuff. Dave's got the affiliate link once again. Tony says, thanks, Dave. No, thank you. So again, we've been on here a while now. I do appreciate all you guys here. You guys are awesome. I hope you come back and join me for the next broadcast where we'll jump into the console emulation and we'll take a look at that. And we'll do another one of these Q&As as well. So for the rest of you, thank you so much. For all 50 of you that are still watching, thank you for all the thumbs up. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys very, very soon. Make sure you're on the email list and you guys will be notified when we go live next time. So I will see you guys soon. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening and the rest of your weekend.